Torn Records, we've celebrated our 10th anniversary, and little did we know when we launched the label way back in 2003 that this would be such a seismic decade for dance music. A decade that has seen doomsday style predictions of its demise right the way through to DJs selling out stadiums and mammoth electronic festivals. Over the past year, we've interviewed some of the key players in the scene, and in this documentary, we're going to tell the story of an eventful decade in dance music. In 2003, Alexis Petridis announced in the Guardian newspaper that dance music was in terminal decline. At the time, vinyl sales were falling, dance magazines were folding, and clubs were closing. It was harder than ever to start up a label.
It was like the Wild West in terms of, the music industry was a really exciting but very daunting and very cutthroat industry in those days. And as you said, you had to get a distribution deal, you had to have 5 records signed and sealed and in place, because the distributor would make a decision as to whether they signed you up as a label on your releases that you had coming out. And that meant that you kind of had to have about 10 grand in the bank.
I started the label back in 2003, and it was tough back then, just to really get yourself out there. With the cost of manufacture, the cost of distribution adding to everything, we were walking away with roughly around 50p per vinyl sold. With distributors also not doing their job, I was finding myself jumping in a van, going around to different shops, different distributors, just to get the product out there. And in the first year, it was tough just keeping our head above water.
So despite all these difficulties, 2003 was the year that many influential labels were established. Labels such as Size, Cadenza, Armada and Toolroom, to name but a few. So what was it that paved the way for the emergence of these labels?
By the time of 2001, 2002, there was a bit of a shake-up, there was a bit of a dip in dance music for the first time. I think all that happened was that the people maybe who were in it for the right reasons carried on doing their thing, and the scene just went back more underground again. And so by 2002, 2003, you had people pushing on who were still wanting to do their thing, and DJs realising that it was a good thing for themselves if they set up their own label.
Started out from nothing, I had a little trip when me and Sebastian moved to Southampton in 2001. I felt that I had to get releases out, we couldn't survive. We DJ'd and we made £300 a month, so it was very hard for us to survive and to eat, and so I decided to start my label. I had tons of records. I had maybe 100 records. So, got to a UK distributor. That was the birth of Size for me. It was my business card to the world.
Because the world was changing back then. We were still playing vinyl. The CDJs had just come up, so it was a sort of a shift from the classic DJing with vinyl and everything to the digital age, with Ableton and laptops and everything. So it was a pretty exciting time.
2003 to 2004 was a real tipping point in the dance music industry, with the developments of technology bringing digital music to the fore. Technology became cheaper, access to equipment became easier, musical production was well and truly opened up to the masses.
It's before it was quite hard to get a record out. You had to get through to certain people and get people to invest money in you. Now it's on the one hand democratic, because absolutely anyone can, you can afford to make records at home on your laptop, and then you can get them out in the marketplace literally immediately. On the downside, it's made the music a little bit more disposable. Before we would cherish a piece of vinyl and worship it, and now you just download this, download that. It's kind of in one ear and out the other. So yeah, the quality's gone down a bit, but the worldwide access to music it's got to be a good thing.
For me, it was like I had hardware, I had a studio, and that was what I knew. And now it's a combination of me of balance in between the hardware and the software. But it's now affordable to most people.
The digital world is dominant at the moment, so you have all the kids downloading music for free. So it has changed a lot. The good thing is that the kids, because they've become so techy as well, they are producing a lot of music, and it's more accessible, and everybody can express their artistic sense and be part of what we are doing.
I think the whole technology is way better than before. Like, you don't have like buy like a lot of equipment to like actually make a good track. Everything is digital nowadays. You don't have like to afford a lot of money to like actually buy a professional studio. A lot of guys are just using crack programs, I can say that, but like it's good to see that people just come up with great music just by being inspired from other guys. And you know, it's all about the ideas. In the end, you can have like the biggest studio ever, but if you don't have the inspiration, you're never ever gonna make that hit record.
I think that technology has totally democratized making music, but I think that's a development of the last 20 years rather than 10. But it's an amazing thing. I mean, just, you know, basically everyone has access to the software, and it's really like how much, you know, A, how much talent you have, but B, you know, mainly how much time and kind of attention you want to put into it, you know. And there's tons and tons of new artists coming through.
As well as hugely affecting production, technology has changed the art of DJing. With the development of the CDJ by Pioneer meant that vinyl was no longer necessary. With the introduction of software that removed the necessity of manual beat matching, it meant that anyone could be a DJ.
I feel really let down in a way, because I say 99.9 of the new acts, new DJs that are coming in, they actually haven't been educated properly. They don't know about the roots, they don't know about the culture, they don't know about everything that it is to be in this industry. You know, that's why you see like this lollipop DJs come overnight, have their 2-3 years run, rinse it out, gone.
The way I DJ, I like to mix it up, you know, my acapellas, bonus beats, cut in and out of this version, go into that version and stuff like that. I like to mix it up. So DJs today, with the technology, you don't have to do much. I guess you can just set up a playlist. I like the best of both worlds though, you know, I'm not mad at it. You know, I use a CD and a flash now, and I could really just use the flash. I just use the CD so I can show off like I'm doing something a little bit, you know. I mean, you don't need much these days. Flash, go there, rock a party 5 hours with no problem and have all the greatest songs.
But everything's changed like too much. Like God, from playing vinyl to going to CDs, from CDs to USB to Tractor. It's like something else is always around the corner, so you've got to be on it, and literally you've got to be on it, otherwise you're going to get left behind.
I picked up the future by spinning with Tractor. Native Instruments delivered me what I need, which is I can't carry records anymore because it's not that they are heavy or bulky or something. It's about you travel that much to different places with different airlines that sometimes your luggage just don't arrive, and you cannot do this to the fans showing up. And these days, you cannot play with the record selection, the record collection of The Resident or something. Everything changed. That's why I keep the turntables and the mixer. That's what I learned. This is where I come from. But I'm not against the future.
After DJing for quite a few years, I decided to sort of try and take things to a different level with these live shows that I do. So I do a show with a big light production, but what's kind of most interesting about it, I think, is some of the equipment that I've been using for it. We had these motion sensors custom built for the show, which basically allow me to control some of the synth sounds by moving my hand around in air, so I can control the pitch of a sound or the tone of a sound or bring a sound in just by like moving my hand in air. I've just really wanted to do something with the live show that's me performing music live but in an electronic way rather than using a band, which I feel is like not an accurate representation of this music. It's all created on computers, and I want it to be played back by computers and sound super fat and loud and quantized. The whole process of DJing has got like a lot easier and a lot more creative, basically.
One result from the adoption of digital DJing has been the decline of the record store. Once a hub and focal point for dance music communities across the world, they have felt the blow of the MP3 more than anyone. Nearly all dance music is now discovered and consumed online, a huge change from the days of digging for vinyl.
It was record buying. That's what it was. It's like we would meet, me, Kenny, Jazzy, we would meet like in Philly, and we'd go to these 45 shops, and we was being down in basements, pulling out 45s, running to the little turntable, listen to it. Oh, that's dope. That was Stacy Lattisaw. That's the original. Blah, 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 you know, and just going through little nicks and knacks. Like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, that's Babyface. He was in that group. Like, you know, it's like you just start finding out things. You're reading credits. Even iTunes, I'm mad at them because you don't see who produced and played on the record on the credits. That's so bad because then you can't find the connection of what's really going on.
I can tell you probably about 20 DJs that worked at one single store in Chicago called Gramophone Records. It's still open today. That basically is sort of the schooling. We went there for school. You spend a few years there, and if you actually were working at the same time that working on your own career as a DJ and whatever, there came a point that after the third or fourth year you graduated and you went and became a DJ. Like, that was it. You know, Derek Carter was there, Mark Farina used to hang all the time, DJ Heather from Chicago, we used to work Sundays and everything. Miles made Rafael Rosario from the old school. Like, there were so many DJs from Chicago that they were just at that one store, and it was really the core of house music in Chicago.
Technology has changed the music industry entirely, and whether that is a good or bad thing will always be open to debate. But what we can agree on is that music is what ultimately matters. One thing that has categorised dance music over the last 10 years has been its ability to continuously reinvent itself. The emergence of new subgenres like minimal, dubstep and electroclash have kept the scene fresh, pushed boundaries and brought new fans to dance music.
One of the things that really characterised the mid-2000s was the change in genres. Historically, we'd had house, techno, drum and bass, and it was great to see new sounds and new producers kind of jumping on these genres and taking the music in a new path. And for me, it really stopped the scene getting stale.
Although the popularity of these genres has waned, there's been a lasting influence. The sheer variety of sounds and styles over the last 10 years has meant the lines between genres are increasingly blurred, creating modern music with a rich melting pot of influences.
It's interesting because I think over the last couple of years, we've managed to really sort of capture a lot of the acts that I think are really exciting. When I say capture, it sounds like I've snared them with a net. They've all chosen to work with us, and we've built up a nice little core roster of acts: Dusky, George Fitzgerald, Midland. It's interesting because they're coming from a place that isn't house, but they, over the last couple of years, are now releasing more and more 4/4, whether that be house, techno, or... And that for me is really why it's interesting and exciting, and why it sort of almost started a whole new feel to UK house music, is because it's coming from a place that isn't house music. And I think when you get people writing music that isn't actually where their influences lie, you get really interesting and slightly different results. Midland comes from drum and bass, George Fitzgerald comes from more of a garage background, likewise with Dusky. All of these guys aren't necessarily coming from being a house and techno, growing up listening to house and techno, or buying house and techno, or playing house and techno, which means that when they actually sit down and try and make what they think is house and techno, or whatever they want, it's not going to sound like house and techno that we know.
One of the most controversial new genres in dance music sparked some of the biggest changes to the industry in decades. In 2011, dance music exploded in America. EDM, or electronic dance music, has gained an entirely new audience in the States, resulting in mainstream success for acts like David Guetta, Skrillex and the Swedish House Mafia. All this change has fueled a huge debate within the scene.
Well, Detroit and Chicago, I don't think have changed so much, or kind of music for 10 years in those cities are kind of pretty stable. However, America as a whole, the scene in America, that's changed completely. I mean, now there's EDM, this term that people use and I generally kind of hate, but it's kind of, at some point, it was bad to dance in America. It was like, you know, either you were gay or into drugs, and it just wasn't cool, you know, and now, like, frat kids are going around, going to parties and listening to house music, and it's kind of like, it's different, it's new for them, you know, it's just happening again, you know, America's booming again with people wanting to go out and dance and have a good time, which I think is amazing. You know, it has a positive effect on all the genres within dance music, not just commercial dance music, but underground dance music as well.
It's difficult to see new acts who actually wanna learn a bit and then sort of follow what other people have done and find their way to becoming themselves, instead of trying to be already a pre-packaged deal. You know what I'm saying? That's where we're at today. Like, you know, 99% of the DJs are pre-packaged deals. They have management, they have funding, they have press, they have everything together, and all they have to do is show up and smile and drink champagne and do hearts and everything but DJ.
We all worked very, very hard to get dance music as big as we could. I think the respect is due to the peers and everybody that we've learned from, you know, guys like Derek May and Carl Craig, and, you know, I grew up with the Swedish techno scene. For me it was Karl Leckebusch and Adam Beyer and all those guys, Drum Code, and so for us, you know, we need to tip our hats to them for making us what we are today. Even though our sounds don't cross paths, it's still because of them we're here. So I think I respect the explosion of dance music. I love the fact that we can go into arenas and sell 100,000 tickets. I think that's amazing, because it's always been a dream for me. But I also think that we should be careful how we exploit the genre so it doesn't become McDonald's.
It's more the industry which is hyping up this whole EDM thing and whatever. And that's why I did the tour with Richie, the Control Tour, to show the people there's something beyond that, something slightly different. And here we are again. You have so much great artists in the United States and so much great parties that have nothing to do with all this EDM hype, you know? That's why we did the lecture with the students. It was a big success and we were so happy about it. And even we catch just 2 people. 2 is more than nothing. The United States is a big market, and it's very difficult. What gives me the right to come and say this is the right thing, what I'm doing? It's not the right thing. It's what I'm doing and I represent it. You're more than welcome to join my circle. Come in.
I mean, I enjoyed a wave, especially in America, about 10, 12 years ago. There's me and the Chemicals Brothers and Prodigy and Basement Jaxx. We kind of had our sort of big explosion in America. But it was called electronica in those days, not EDM. And then that wave crashes to the beach and then recedes. But in the meantime, we just go back underground and do our thing.
The whole debate surrounding EDM has proven one thing, that dance music isn't 100% comfortable in the mainstream. And perhaps this explains the recent rise in underground house music in the UK. The scene's gone back to its roots, embracing deeper influences and elements of garage and two-step. While vinyl has had its most successful year since 2003.
I'll keep releasing vinyl as long as it's possible not to lose too much money releasing it, because I love it personally. I don't play it. I stopped playing it, but I still obviously invest a lot of my money in making it and love it as a format. I love the sound, the feel, the way that the artwork is presented. I think that's really what drew me into releasing records in the first place.
It's kind of coming back now, which I think is interesting. It's kind of a cycle and a reaction to all that craziness with the atomization of the music and the labels. So I can feel people need to have go back to the roots and go back to record shop. And I really feel it now, like this year. But for a while it was completely changing, and you have to be careful not to be lost, and you have to adapt.
In a sense, I think in 2013 it's kind of gone full circle. We've had 2 years of the kind of loud, in-your-face EDM and the commerciality that went along with that. Now I think people are looking to get back to the true aesthetics of dance music, the smaller venues, the more intimate venues, things with more of a vibe to it. Vocal tunes are becoming bigger and, you know, and becoming more loved because people are looking for that hook in a record now. And I think it's an exciting time, and it's great to see what the next 10 years will bring as this wheel just keeps turning.
Dance music in 2013 is a whole different industry to the one we saw 10 years ago. Technology has changed both the art of DJing and production. The music has evolved and diversified, and the audience is far bigger than ever before. Whether all this changes for good or for bad depends on your opinion, but one thing I know is that dance music certainly isn't dead. In fact, it's healthier than it's ever been. So here is to the next 10 years.